So bringing in the gold, just to say I have organised some breaks throughout, but as always, look after yourself. The workshop is being recorded. The videos, like Christina said, the video boxes aren't being recorded. So my voice and the PowerPoint slides are being recorded. So if you do wish to revisit any of the workshop, you can, because it will soon be posted on social media. And also if there are specifics, you're welcome to email me, and I've put my contact details at the end of the workshop. So, but do look after yourself in terms of that. I mean, take comfort breaks as you need, have stretches, you know, Zoom can be tiring. Yeah, so plenty of yawning, plenty of stretching, plenty of hydration, etc. Yeah, just because then we can absorb all of higher powers' love. Yeah. So yeah, so this workshop is the second part of 2 workshops, but I do want to say, if you didn't attend the first workshop, no problem at all. I didn't assume that everybody would. The first workshop was about a month ago, and the way I arranged it was that each workshop was standalone, so you could attend both or you could attend just one of them. And so I'll start off by reviewing what some of the previous workshop talked about, but hopefully in an interesting way. So if you did attend that workshop, it won't be boring. and then I'll talk a little bit about so reviewing clearing out the old, which was the first workshop, talking about what money recovery foundations are, and mainly this workshop's talk about the relationship between codependency, debting, and underearning, and how those addictions intersect together to contract our lives away from higher powers' will for our lives, which I believe is meant to be generous and free. So then I'm going to talk a little bit about my own experience, strength and hope around moving from scarcity to prosperity, starting to define what does prosperity mean to you, asking whether your higher power is generous enough. Mine definitely wasn't. Or starting to get clear on all the good you'd like to experience. And then we'll talk about tools, next steps, and sharing. So throughout, I've hopefully created enough spaces for us, because I'd love to hear from you as well. I'd love to hear your own experiences. So I've created spaces for sharing, and the committee will help navigate that. There are some exercises with journaling and writing. I'm a writer and I love writing, so I tend to kind of create writing exercises. You know, feel free to use your phone or laptop, or grab, you know, take a moment now to grab a pen and paper, whichever kind of form works best for you, and we'll allocate time for those writing exercises throughout as well. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to talk, just a little bit about emptying the cup, actually. So in the previous workshop, clearing out the old, what I started to identify was how, as addicts, well, myself, speak for myself, as an addict, I tend to be filled with fear, guilt, resentment, and shame. I think there might be another one as well. Yeah, guilt, resentment, and shame. Well, they're the 4, and they're also the 4, interestingly, I think I've heard that they're the 4 major ages of the body as well, emotionally: fear, guilt, resentment, and shame. And so, first of all, in order for me to bring in any sense of prosperity, and just to let you know, like, by prosperity and abundance, I don't just mean financial. Yes, I mean a sense of prosperity, a sense of breadth, a sense of peace, a sense of possibility, the opposite of scarcity, really. And I mean that for me to lead a prosperous life, I'm thinking about a life where I have plenty of time, plenty of money, plenty of love, and then also plenty of the values that I really appreciate. So one of my major values is connectedness, so feeling connected to life. And that doesn't just mean feeling connected to people. For me, it also means feeling connected to the natural world, feeling connected to non-human species as well as human species. It means being connected to my body and connected to my spirit. And then another one of my values is freedom. So personally, if I feel trapped by things, or if I have or obligated, then that really goes against a feeling of prosperity for me. But anyway, later in the workshop, we'll get more into kind of what prosperity means to each of us individually. But just as a kind of heading, just so you know what I'm talking about, that I'm not just talking about kind of you know, kind of, I don't know, bars of gold. Yeah, so yeah, and so starting to think about how we might empty the cup, first of all, of fear, guilt, shame, and resentment, especially because in my experience there, the emotional and spiritual pains that stop our higher power from flowing through. So we were talking about emptying the cup. Yeah, so there's this quote I found: pain that is not transformed will always be transmitted. And this for me, as many quotes are, is a fantastic advert for recovery. It's like, sort your stuff out, address your stuff, address your pain, and then it won't be transmitted. It won't continue to rule your life unconsciously. And so I'm going to say a prayer, and if you're welcome to join me, just centering yourself in your heart. And let's just take a breath, actually. With that PowerPoint not working for a moment, it might be, you know, those technical things often happen in my experience when I need to slow down. And we might just need to kind of, pardon me, come into the space. So just taking a breath, closing your eyes if you're able, and allowing your body to become heavy on the chair or the surface you're resting on. And allowing your breath to become heavy in your body. Allowing your breath to move down your body, down and through your body. Down through your torso, down through your hips, down through your legs and your knees and your calves and ankles and feet. And you might like to imagine that your feet are becoming really large, and they're connecting to the floor, they're connecting to the earth. Imagining that the space below your feet is disappearing, melting away, and that you're able to plunge your feet into the soft earth. And just inviting yourself into the room, so inviting yourself into this space. Knowing that you have a right to exist, thinking about that CoDA affirmation: I have a right to be here, I have a right to exist. So plugging your feet into the earth, allowing yourself to be here in this body, here on this earth, here in the workshop. I'm calling to all the parts of you, wherever they are now, whatever's been going on your Saturday, just inviting all parts of you to fully join you now, to fully rest and be with you now, and to allow yourself to really fully absorb this workshop, fully absorb all of higher power's wisdom that's welcome and right for you. Knowing that you can take what you like and leave the rest. And drawing some of that lovely rich earth energy up through your body, maybe giving yourself a feeling of unconditional love, a feeling of safety, a feeling of centeredness. And just breathing in. I'd encourage us all to actually just do a deep sigh together. So breathing in and then out, letting go. Letting your shoulders go, letting any tension go. Letting your spine, head and neck come into the right alignment for you. Things are intense in the world at the moment, and we can carry this weight upon us. So again, just taking a nice deep breath in and sighing again. Allowing yourself to really let go, to become heavy, to become weighty, to become more embodied. And then from that place, centering yourself in your heart if you're able. And I'm going to put my palm in the middle of my chest on where my heart chakra, where my heart center is. And I'm going to say a prayer, and you're welcome to join me in your mind, and you're welcome to change the wording to your own, for your own God. Higher power, thank you, I love you. Thank you for this opportunity to share you. Today, help me to set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about codependency, and everything I know about money and prosperity. Everything I think I know about my own recovery. I pray for a new experience in myself, a new experience in my fellows, and my own recovery. Amen. Yeah, and I'm just moving my palm just on my heart, just activating that space, starting to wake up, and then I'm just going to start to stretch my body. I'm wiggling my fingers and wiggling my toes, and you might want to really stretch into the space, really stretching through your left side, really stretching through the right side, imagining you're a little child doing those exercises like it's the morning. Just really waking up those sides of the body. And then I'm just going to do just a tapping exercise where you're just tapping just all over the head, just waking up the body, just tapping over the face, pulling into the ears, getting all those great acupressure points in the ears, tapping over the chest, waking up the immune system, the thymus, tapping underneath the rib cage, sides of the body, across the arms and the hands and the legs and the feet. Good, and then you might just want to do it just like a nice stroking, just calming the energy around you down. And then I'd encourage you to sit, if possible, after that with your palms up on your lap, if you see what I mean, like this, but rested. And that just allows, pardon me, the lung channels just to open and any stuck emotions to leave. You might even feel a kind of buzzing feeling in your hands or a tingling in your palms. I've got that going on at the moment, just allowing that. And just breathing there. Great, well done. Just helps to bring into the space. Okay. So I'm aware, I'm going to share these charts here. There's 2 of them, and I'm aware they're quite complex. If you want to email me, I can send them to you. I'm not going to go into great detail about them. There's similarities that I found between my codependency, my debting and underearning. And I'm going to share my own experience, strength and hope, which enabled me to kind of make these discoveries. But one of the main things I recognized was that codependency, debting and underearning, and I'll explain what debting and underearning mean to me in a moment, I recognized that they were all operating from an atmosphere of vagueness. And they were all creating a kind of clutching, contracted tension in my life, in my relationships, in my nervous system, definitely in my bank accounts, definitely in my housing. There wasn't really anywhere in my life where these energies, which I describe them as well as addictions, were manifesting. They were kind of like a mold that went everywhere. They had kind of spores, I'd say, invisible spores that I then saw evidence of. And so codependency behaviors, for example, compulsive giving, I would, naturally with having the disease of codependency, I would compulsively give, feeling like, if I compulsively gave, then people would love me, then people would respect me, etc. Then I'd get the acceptance or the approval or the validation that I craved in my childhood. And so I would, try and control people giving me that by compulsively giving. And then that would come out in compulsive spending behaviors on things that I didn't need in order to avoid my feelings, in order to numb out. Okay, so it's exactly the same behavior, but it's just, that's it, just, over in this column, it's just how it manifested in the form of finances, right? And energy. So it kind of like, for me, it's like these addictions, they start off kind of as a spiritual disease, they manifest in my thinking, and then they start to manifest in my behaviors. And so it's that kind of moving from the non-visible realms into the very physical realms, right? Okay. And then, yeah, playing God by fantasizing that I could control others and the flow of love. And then playing God by fantasizing that I could control the flow of money and the flow of abundance and what was going on with my money. Yeah, so similar, it's a similar kind of fantasies of grandiosity, right? Ladder thinking that I need to be either above, that I'm either above or below others, that I'm not in an egalitarian setup, I'm not in equality, I'm not in equal relationship to you as my fellow, as my brother, as my sister. Instead, I've got to be above you, I've got to be better than you, and because then you won't hurt me. Essentially, it's a trauma response. Yeah. Yeah, and so, at the peak of my codependency, I would live on the edge by associating with unavailable, dysfunctional and dangerous people and adrenalize. And then I did the same in my work life too. I did crappy jobs or jobs, which risked my health or my safety, or, I was hanging out, I did a drug deal, which involved, hanging out with dangerous and dodgy people. And it wasn't exactly what my higher power had planned for me, I don't imagine. So how my codependency and my addictions contributed to me acting in dysfunctional ways. Yeah. And it's all anxiety driven, right? It's all anxiety driven and dishonest. Yeah. So these are some of the differences between debting and under-earning. And the reason why I kind of define these a bit more is because, and we are going to talk about bringing in the gold as well, but first of all, I think it's important to identify some of these dysfunctional behaviors first so that we can empty them out and then, then start to bring in what we want. So the reason why I've kind of unpacked these a bit here with debting and under-earning is because for me, I've met many people in recovery over the years and who say, I'm not a debtor. And they may well not be, and that's fine. But I know myself, before I was willing to look at my debting, I didn't really understand that debting involved all of these kind of subtle behaviors. Just as for years, I would have said, no, I'm not an addict. I didn't really understand what addiction meant. And so I think these terms, for me, it's really important that I get a kind of visceral understanding of like what this means and what it looks like, because somebody else's debting does not look like mine. I was not a compulsive shopper in terms of going out and racking up, thousands on credit cards. That wasn't my style. But compulsively spending on training courses and workshops because I didn't believe I was enough, absolutely. Yeah. So, you get all kinds of different, just like you get all different types of codependence. And then under-earning for me is more about hiding. Yes, some of it might be about money, but in my experience, and it might result in money, my under-earning behaviors result in dysfunctional money behaviors. It doesn't start off in dysfunctional money behaviors. It starts off in this kind of contraction, this kind of settling for smallness. In really, I guess in codependent terms, it's especially the low self-esteem patterns, the avoidance patterns, and the compliance patterns. Yeah. And so, yeah, they say that the drink of for an alcoholic, it's about, not drinking one day at a time. For an under-earner, it would be not hiding one day at a time. So coming out of the cave one day at a time, coming into visibility and knowing that it's safely coming into visibility one day at a time. But I can talk more about that if people want to understand more. Yeah, ambiguity. This is just a silly thing about that I found online about what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. And it does. Like, I know that vague behaviors that I did, yeah, they stayed in this, there was a fantasy that they just stay in this kind of mist and sort of hopefully drift away from me and I'd never have to see them again, and this vagueness can manifest in many ways, being vague about what our vision for our life is, what we're really here to do. We might be so caught up in pleasing others or desperate to get approval, etc., that we've never even thought, like, what do I actually want to do? Or, our dreams might seem really distant, like, oh, I'd love to write a book, but, one day, rather than like, hang on, if I really want to write a book, like, what does this mean? Or, and this can also be about our finances, of course. So this was a question I asked in the last workshop. Are you willing to no longer be a mushroom? And what this is about is that it's recognizing that a lot of these addictive behaviors, well, nearly all of them, in my experience, they hang around in the dark. It's kind of like that that other fellowships adage, you know, we're as sick as our secrets, right? Because whatever we're not sharing about, then, you know, then shame is allowed to hang around and breeds like mushrooms in the darkness. And so I was asking, are you willing to no longer be a mushroom? As in, are you willing to bring your relationship with prosperity out of the darkness, out of the shadows, out of hidden or fear-based behaviors, and into instead something which your higher power might want for you instead? So I'm going to talk a little bit about money recovery behaviors in my experience, strength and hope. And money recovery behaviors, in my experience, this is what they are. So yeah, there might be record keeping, which is one of the main tools of Debtors Anonymous, which is one of the programs that I attend. So this is what Debtors Anonymous, Business Debtors Anonymous, and Underearners Anonymous. So there are other programs that I attended to get money recovery, and I still continue to attend. And so, yeah, one of their main tools is record keeping. The idea is getting, you know, just as in CoDA, how we get really clear with our boundaries. We, you know, my CoDA recovery has definitely needed me to do a lot of outreach and get a lot of input from my co-sponsor, etc., around particular boundaries. Record keeping is a kind of boundary keeping, but around our money. And that record keeping might, you know, extend to how we keep our receipts and things, but essentially it's a sense of having a really clear sense of like, this is what I'm spending, this is what I'm earning, like what's going on with that relationship between giving and receiving. And similar to codependency, it's like, am I over giving in my relationships, you know, or am I allowing plenty of space to also receive and have fun in my relationships? You know, and we can be codependent, you know, even, you know, a really simple thing could be, you know, going for dinner with a friend and then always picking up the tab. You know, I used to do that with a friend when I was a teenager because I couldn't bear that anxiety of the bill sitting there, you know, and it was like, I don't know, it was like £1.50 or something, but for my teenage self, that was a lot of money. And then I started to resent that friend. And then that relationship, that friendship started to erode because I resented what was happening there. I resented my compulsive spending and her compulsive avoidance of the bill. So yeah, so starting to get clear on our record, starting to get our records clear is not about being good or kind of pleasing some imaginary bank manager. It's a way of getting really clear on like, where is my energy going? Like, how am I, you know, what am I spending money on? What am I never spending money on? And starting to move, yeah, from a place of enmeshment. You know I was financially enmeshed with my mother, for instance, which was very connected to my codependency, instead into a place of autonomy. Time recording, that's a tool that Underearners Anonymous use. They recognize that time is a currency, and if we're misusing it and we're acting from a place of time drunkenness, that means we never, you know, it means that, say for example, you know, I want to go to Hawaii at some point in my life, I know that, and not just to lie on some beach, but to see the volcanoes. Anyway, but anyway, like, you know, unless I do something about that, unless I put that either on a vision board or I talk to my higher power about it, or, you know, I start to save, you know, I start to create a Hawaii fund, or I start to research and read about Hawaii books, it's not likely to happen, right? Life's busy, life's demanding, it just might not happen. And so yeah, so starting to get some kind of time recording would be like, okay, I've got this Hawaii vision. How much time do I want to spend on this Hawaii vision a week? You know? Oh, I heard a strange noise. Yeah, yeah. So leaving toxic jobs and relationships. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I'll let you read those for yourself. Honest sharing and outreach calls. That's a fantastic one for reducing shame. Yeah, starting to cultivate healthy boundaries. And I'm happy, you know, in the sharing sections to kind of talk about this more. And there's also questions at the end. So I'm going to leave that prayer for now, and I'm going to come back to it. So this is, this wasn't created by me. This is a pyramid of needs made by somebody. I'm not going to mention it because it's an outside issue, but if you want to know who it's by, please feel free to ask me and I will tell you one-to-one. But this idea of this hierarchy of needs was written in the 60s. And the idea is that if these basic needs, what down here are physiological needs, our need for shelter, for security, for being okay as a kind of animal on the earth, if you like, a sort of if these aren't met, the argument is that it's very hard for us to start to think about these. And I think, again, the kind of thing of HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and making sure that we don't get hungry, angry, lonely, or tired really acknowledges that, actually, because if those basic needs are going on, then, as we know, if we're hungry, it's very hard to kind of start to think about achieving one's full potential when you haven't had enough to eat, right? We just can't do it. And this is my experience kind of with my money issues as well, to be honest. When my money issues were going on, I couldn't really get up here. I was always very spiritually motivated. I was always doing different spiritual courses. I've always believed in God, but I couldn't get up here because I had a ton of fear, shame, guilt, and resentment going on around my basic needs. Yes. And so, so for me, by addressing those basic needs and getting that, getting those foundations really good and really solid, then allows me to free up my energy, and then higher power is able to operate in my life much more fully. And I'm able to experience a lot more happiness, and I'm able to give a lot more service, and be a lot more, contribute a lot more, a great more deal to the world. Yeah. Great. So, so starting to think about, what does prosperity mean to you? So this is so individual to us. Our sense of what makes us, just like our values are, our sense of what makes us feel prosperous, just like our sense of like what makes us feel peaceful and fulfilled and nourished, etc. That, in my experience, it's as individual as we are. And so just starting to, I've written some question prompts, and we're going to do some timed writing in a moment, just to start to really inquire as to actually what prosperity means to us, and how, and then that can help start bringing it in. So I'd like to complete these sentences, and we're going to give you 10 minutes. So Jackie, are you still doing the timing? Is Jeremiah doing the timing? Jackie is? Okay, great. Thanks so much. So so are you able to time us for 10 minutes? Maybe if you give us 1 minute warning at 9. Awesome. Thanks so much for your help. Okay, and I'm going to take part 2. So so completing these sentences. Prosperity to me means ... Something that makes me really expand and feel really prosperous is, and this might be, I'll give you some examples if it's helpful. Prosperity to me as a prosperity to me as a codependent might mean saying no. Like knowing that I can say no. That helps me to feel really prosperous, actually. I'm doing a course at the moment that I don't think is right for me. I was attending it today, and I was talking with the committee beforehand, and I was talking with a mentor that I work with today about, maybe what isn't right about it. And I'm trying to, I'm tuning into my higher power and asking, like, what is more prosperous? Is it more prosperous for me to do this course? Is it more prosperous for me to say no to this course? Pardon me, so prosperity to, it might not mean, a solid gold Ferrari parked outside, right? And other 80s cliches. Something that makes me really expand and feel really prosperous is, this might be like, nourishing food. This might be like home cooked food. This might be like a whole day with nothing required of me. This might mean like a lion. This might mean being able to stay up till 5 a.m. and nobody caring, like nobody demanding things from me, or so a lot of these, I'd encourage you to make some of these answers kind of broad and like multifaceted, and applying to different areas of your life. All right, I'll stop talking now. And I'm going to answer them myself, and we'll share afterwards. Okay, so we're now going to do another writing exercise for a little bit shorter time. Actually, I'd suggest maybe we do 7 minutes. And writing quite quickly actually sometimes can really be good for editing for kind of going past the inner critic. And this is about birthing a generous God or higher power, whichever term you prefer. And this comes from my notion that when I grew up, even though I grew up with a sense of even though I always grew up with a sense of a higher power, I noticed that it was, getting into recovery, I noticed that it was a fair weather God that I had. It was a God that was there for the good times and then disappeared when bills needed to be paid. When the gas bill arrived, there was no God around because I didn't understand that my parents had diseases of underearning and debting. And so coming into recovery, I've had to, as I'm sure many of you have, I've had to really examine and look at my notion of what my higher power is and where my higher power is and where my higher power isn't, and started to bring in some qualities for a higher power that really worked for me, and including my higher power being trustworthy, being reliable, being consistent, and really having my back. And so I encourage us to do some. And again, Jackie, would you time us for 7 minutes and give us 1 minute warning at 6? Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah, and encourage again, to go into this inquiry. Yeah. So other prosperity generating tools that we can use, that I've used in the past, are clutter clearing, receipt ordering, relaxing. That's a great one for us addicts, right? We forget to do that. We can actually just relax. Doing what we love. This is a fun one to do, actually. If you're feeling skint is a British term. I don't know if you use that so much in the States. It's a British term we use for when we haven't got any money. I'm skint. You can do some, you can do this exercise where you literally just write out, like, as quickly as possible, 100 ways to bring, like you number this, 1 to 100, and then write out different ways to bring in, and you start off with the things that you can do, not necessarily that you want to do, like babysitting or dog walking or whatever. And then from that, you can kind of hone. And I don't know, I know people who've done that exercise and things have shifted. Often it's just about creating a shift in energy. And I'm talking about it in terms of finances, but also you might, if you've recognized from some of these exercises that we've done, that actually, it's more peace, peace is more actually what prosperity means to you, rather than like necessarily money, then you might start to think, right, well, what are 100 ways to bring in more peace, or bring in more fulfillment, or bring in more friendship, or bring in more nourishment, etc. Affirmations. I think in my own experience of affirmations, that affirmations work well, but I do need to do the clearing out work first. Personally, I know I was picking up a lot of spiritual tools that didn't really have an impact until I did that initial clearing out. And the way I think about that is like having a closet full of clothes that I don't like, and then like going out and buying like a silk dress and trying to like stuff this like nice silk dress in the wardrobe, like whilst all these other clothes that I don't actually want to wear are like in the wardrobe. So it's like I need to clear out all the all the stuff that I don't need first, and then start to bring in, because otherwise kind of positive, it's the same as kind of positive thinking. It can sort of sit on top of that negative thinking, but if you're not addressing the negative, it's going to kind of seep through. That's my experience. Writing out desires, that's a great way of kind of getting, like we've been doing today, like starting to get really clear about like, well, what is it that I want actually, if there, is that, what are the adventures that I'd really love to have? What are the things that would really make my heart sing? What are the things that really speak to me? What does generosity look like? Vision boards too, similarly. All of these exercises are great, but again, for me, I needed to do that fundamental clearing out work first. But I know plenty of people, and myself included, who've made vision boards and put it somewhere where you see it often, and then those images start to impress upon the subconscious. And gratitude is a huge one for shifting our attitude from a place of scarcity to a place of, you know, noticing what's already working in our lives. And by noticing and attuning to what's already working in our lives, then of course it's like buying a blue car. You know, you suddenly notice all the other blue cars. Gratitude, in my experience, is the same. Is that as you start to attune to it, like more things come that that feel good. And step work, yeah, especially step 4, where you're doing an inventory of what's going on. Step 5, handing it over to your higher power and another fellow. Step 9, I've made a huge amount of amends in my life, actually, and I'm still making them for a lot of my early work life that I, you know, those under-earning jobs where I pretended that I wanted to be at jobs that I didn't want to be at. And so I've recently been getting in contact with old bosses of mine and being honest with them that I didn't want to be there. And that's how I became so hard to manage, and why I was, you know, late every day and on email the whole time, or using the laser printer to print off my latest art project, or, you know, whatever I was up to, you know, all that stuff that I'm not proud of. Christina's laughing. All those dysfunctional jobs, you know, all those basement, yeah, and also I have to say that there's had to be a lot of amends to self, because I did so many jobs. Oh my God, some of the low rent jobs I did, you know, I was talking about earlier. My dad once did a job where he worked in an abattoir stirring a vat of blood. That was his job. So, you know, it's a miracle that I like my work now, considering my heritage. No wonder I'm vegan, right? Step 10, obviously, you know, doing daily inventory, looking at where, you know, what's going on with our own behaviours, and step 12, giving service, contributing to others. You know, all of these, in my experience, they especially create prosperity, because they clear us out, you know, and then higher power is able to come more in. Okay, yeah, so I think maybe actually I'm considering time. I'm just going to have a look for a moment. Okay, yeah, so I think that I'm actually going to go back to, sorry, I can see someone's wanting to screenshot. You can in a moment. I'm going to go back to this prayer, actually. There's a prayer earlier on that I skipped over because I wanted to share some other things first. And I'm going to say this prayer now, and I'm aware that Scott and Judy are doing a forgiveness workshop next week, and I think forgiveness is fantastic for bringing in prosperity. I really do, because it shifts so much of that stuck energy, especially the resentment and the guilt stuff, and the anger, which can really, and the rage, which can often sit underneath codependency and under-earning and debting. And yeah, and so in kind of honor of that energy that's coming next week, and a kind of deeper journey into forgiveness, I encourage you to pray with me now, if that feels right. So, because we've been talking about money and wanting to change, and prosperity and codependency and under-earning and wanting to change these things. So let's bring some more higher power in. So yeah, so again, just coming back to your body. Maybe let's just have a stretch beforehand, actually, just stretching, releasing anything that needs to go. And I think after praying, we'll have a break, and then we can have time for there's one more exercise, and we can sort of end with some more kind of sharing and discussion, kind of freestyle. Okay, so centering yourself in your heart. Higher power, thank you for your help. I want a new relationship with codependency, with money, with debting, with prosperity and under-earning, in alignment with your will for me. Thank you for helping me to forgive you, myself, and others for experiences of suffering, scarcity, lack, poverty, trauma, and addiction. I am willing to forgive all that has offended me about work, money, finances, prosperity, relationships, supply, and abundance. Within and without, I am willing to forgive. Money-related past, present, future, I forgive. I forgive everything money and prosperity related that can possibly need forgiveness. I forgive everything and everybody related to my prosperity, any inherited trauma, poverty, and scarcity thinking, and anyone who can possibly need forgiveness in my past and present. I forgive positively everyone. I am free and all others are free too. All things are cleared up between us now and forever. And so it is. Just closing your eyes, yeah, and just allowing that to land in your body and in your breath. And just taking that freedom into your heart. And maybe imagining that there's some kind of release out of the back of your heart. Seeing that energy change and shift, creating space in the back of your body. And thanking your higher power for bringing you to this space, for bringing you to this workshop, and for bringing you to recovery. So thanks everyone for a wonderful workshop. It was really lovely working with you all, and thank you for all the committee for your amazing support and for making it easy. Yeah. And thank you, higher power, for being inspiring and the life force underneath everything. Thanks. All right, shall I say this?
Sure, if you want to, go ahead.
We thank our higher power for all that we have received from this meeting. As we close, may we take with us the wisdom, love, acceptance, and hope of recovery. Yeah, may your higher powers be generous, prosperous, and fun.